Listen to those fly beats, everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is Glenn, and welcome to the Minds on Muscle show. Brandon could not be here today. He's walking his kid to school for the first time. I think his kid's starting junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten, something like that. So your boy Glenn is here, and I'm monitoring the audio pad here, the Rodecaster Pro. Not 100% sure how to use this thing, so you have to excuse me if I look over sometimes. Either way, we're learning on the go, kind of like how we encourage our students here in the program. Everybody, welcome to the Minds on Muscle show. Today, we're talking about storytelling, secrets for new leads, and for client retention. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing this particular podcast, because this is something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that was an absolute game changer for me. Back when I first started here at Strata, I really had no idea what storytelling was all about. I would do presentations and I thought they were great, and then no one would sign up for my services. I would do these elaborate reports for people and give them all the data and all the information about how we're going to help them. And oftentimes people said no, they didn't want to go through it. And I really couldn't figure out what was missing. And that's when Brandon introduced me to storytelling. And since then, I've gone down my own exploratory journey with storytelling. I can tell you it's an absolute game changer, 100%. And there's so many different reasons for this, but this is probably the first and most important one, is that people aren't always going to remember what you told them, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's really what a really great story does, is it helps you communicate information by attaching it to emotional states. Now, this is not always the easiest thing to do, and it does absolutely take some practice. But even with just a few small tweaks, which I'm going to share with you in this presentation, you're going to be able to tell better stories. So when you give presentations, the information and the data that you share sit with people, and they really understand it better. So that when you meet with new leads and prospects, and you're educating them, or you're talking about yourself, or you're telling stories, you can create a stronger emotional connection, helping these people know, like, and trust you, and eventually do business with you. When it comes to things like retention is of the utmost importance. We know that it's way easier to keep a client than bring a new one on. And a large part of retention comes down to two things. Are they seeing the results that they want, and are they enjoying the experience with you? And storytelling has a huge role to play in this, in that if you are consistently educating your clients during your sessions, and you're able to do that effectively with storytelling, they're going to remember the education. They're going to be able to implement that in their day-to-day life. They're going to see better results. They're going to get a better experience. And as a result of that, they're going to stick around with you longer and longer. It's going to increase their lifetime value, which is huge. And so there's all these different things that strong storytelling and communication will get you. Now, we've got a couple different storytelling formats that we share in the Fitness Pro Mentors community in our group. We have I won't say it's a longer format, but there's some different steps in it, and it's molded after the hero's journey. It's an abridged version. If you look up Joseph Campbell and you look up Hero's Journey, he's got a 12-step one. We are able to distill it down to 6, and it's a really great way to tell stories. What I want to give you today is some information on how you can tell stories in a much more simpler manner. I'm going to give you that formula and that format now, and then we're going to look at how you can apply it to your presentations or your education sessions, or in sessions with clients, or with new leads or people that you meet, or really anywhere in life, because communication, strong communication, is really storytelling, no matter how you chop it up. And so the easy method is something that I have learned recently from a couple different sources. The big one I saw was from this gentleman named Vin, and he's on Instagram, and I got his program, and he has a really great job laying this out. I highly recommend you check out Stage Academy if you really enjoy this podcast. And his easy method looks like this. You have step 1, which is where you're going to set the scene, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and you're going to add aspects of visualization and auditory, kinesthetic, and also sensory information in there, VAX for short. And then once you set the scene, you're going to tell people why you told them that. And that's where you're going to get into the information piece, which is really, really cool. So you can set the scene, bring them in emotionally, and once they're in emotionally, you get to tell them the reason why, which is now the data, the information. You're bringing relevancy to the storytelling process, which is great. Because if you tell a story and there's no point, people will be like, why'd you tell me that? And they're going to lose confidence in you. So let me give you an example of a story. So I'm going to do like a more short abridged version. This is actually one that I shared with one of my clients. So I have a client, he'll remain anonymous, but he has something called a Q22 deletion. And a Q22 deletion is where one of his chromosomes is missing some DNA. And as a result of that, he's got some cognitive challenges that he has, a cleft palate. It definitely plays a role in the way he thinks and acts. If you talk to him and you met him, you would say that, you know, there's something that makes this guy a little bit different. He's differently abled, so to speak. And he got bullied and picked on a lot in high school because of it. And so did I. And so one day we were talking about it, and I can see he was getting a little self-conscious about it, so I told him this story. I said to him, you know, Luke, I want to share this with you real quick before our session. Just give me 2 minutes. He's like, okay, sure. I said to him, when I was in grade 8, I was about 12 years old, and I was playing soccer. And we're in a championship game, 1-1. It's house league, it's recreational, doesn't really matter. It's a beautiful sunny day. I could feel the grass. And it's halftime. My coach comes up to me and says, Glenn, I want you to go give number 7 a hard time. He's on a yellow card right now, and if he gets another one, he gets kicked out of the game. He's their best player. If you do this, we can win. Now, I didn't really love the idea because I looked at number 7, and I'll tell you, if there was a Guinness Book of World Records for a kid who had hit puberty the earliest, it was this kid. He was at least a foot taller than me and had probably 30 pounds more muscle. But I'm a good soldier. I said, okay, coach, I'm going to go do it. So I go, and I'm on the field, and I take the ball off this guy, give him a hard time. I'm running away with him, about to pass it, and he comes in behind me, blatant foul, gets a red card, thrown out of the game. We score another goal, and we win. Hooray! Well, guess what happens? School starts a week later. I'm in high school. It's a new experience. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little anxious. I don't know any of these people. What's going on? I went from the lowest on the food chain, the highest on the food chain to the lowest. And I go to my gym class. It's my first class. I go into this old musty gym, the old linoleum floors, beat up, 30 or 40 years old. And the second I get in there, who do I see? It's number 7. We'll call the kid Ron. And he looks at me and I look at him, and I could feel cold in my veins. I was scared. I was nervous. I was anxious because I know this kid was holding a grudge against me. So the coach takes attendance. We go to the field. We're going to play football. We start getting partnered up. Me and my partner throw balls back and forth. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this ball hits me in the gut. I roll to the ground. I've completely lost my breath. I'm gasping for air. Sean looks over me with his 2 buddies and says, get ready to have a life of hell. I spent the next year of my life avoiding this kid, Ron. Every day I would get up and I dreaded going to school because I got picked on. And it took me a long time to get over it, Luke. A long time. But the reason I'm telling you this is because if Ron didn't pick on me, it wouldn't make me who I am today. I would have never found the gym and exercise. I would have found this thing that I love that helped me build my body and give me more confidence and feel my best. And so I'm sharing this with you because you can experience the same thing that I am if you keep up the work and the consistency. You can get stronger. You can build more self-discipline. You can feel better in your body, and you can rule the world. Now let's go work out. And so this is the story that I told him. And it's an impactful, powerful story because in those maybe 3 minutes that I just told that story, I could see that my client had a shift. That all of a sudden he understood how important this exercise thing could be. And he's been so disciplined since that story and putting the work in that he's starting to see some real progress. And because he's starting to see more progress, he's getting more value to the sessions, getting more experience. His mom is thrilled, he's thrilled, and he wants to keep working with me for as long as he can. That's a wonderful thing. And that's the power of storytelling. So you can see how in that example, I'd use different parts of the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic and sensory to bring the story to life a little bit more. I talked about how the grass was green. It was a sunny Saturday. I talked about the hard linoleum floors in the gym. I added some dialogue to bring the characters to life a little bit about what Sean would say to me and what my coach asked me. I even made it a little bit humorous by looking and talking about the Guinness Book of World Records. And I did all of this because it really set the scene of the story. And at the very end, I got to tell him why it was so impactful for me and why I think this is important for him to know. And that important for him to know piece, the great thing is that can be anything. You can link that up in so many different ways. I could have made that story about perseverance or about making me who I am today. Or I could have made it about why you should be kind to people versus bullying them. I could have said any number of different things. So this storytelling format gives you a lot of different ways to play with the meaning of the story in the very end. So let's move on and let's talk about how this is going to be effective for new leads. So there's a whole bunch of different things I've got down here. I'm going to read some as I go through. The first thing here is going to be storytelling is really great for client testimonials. Now, we've talked about this in various different ways, and we have a whole storytelling format that we use for testimonials here. But what I really want you to take home is that asking your clients for testimonials and getting a testimonial is good, but it's really almost the bare minimum in a sense. Better than just a testimonial would be a well-crafted written testimonial that does almost the setting of the scene and then telling people why they're telling you this and why it's so important and impactful. And then another step on top of that would be that same kind of format, but this time in a video form, right? Written is nice, but video tells a much better story because of the imagery. So compare these two different examples of a testimonial. Client rates you a testimonial on your Google page. Jonathan is great. Jonathan helped my back pain go away. I love training with Jonathan. He's amazing. You have to train with Jonathan. That's nice. It gives you some credibility because it came from someone that's not you, who paid for your services, and they said glowing things about you. That's fantastic. But what would be more impactful would be something like this. Before I saw Jonathan, I was struggling to walk up the stairs. I had so much knee pain I couldn't move. I was worried about my future. I was frustrated having to sit on a stale couch all day and just watch movies. Since working with Jonathan, my strength has gotten up. I feel more confident. I feel my best. And I can't thank you enough, Jonathan, for the contribution you've made for my life. I'm eternally grateful. Which one of those two on paper is going to sound better? It's the second one, of course, because it has that setting of the scene. It talks about what the person was struggling with. It painted a picture of sitting on the couch, watching movies, something that clients who are struggling with knee pain, who can't move around, they can relate to. And then it talks about why you made all the difference and what the person can do now and how happier they are and how grateful they are. These small things make big differences. And again, we do have that 6-step formula we share in the Fitness Pro Mentors mentorship, which takes that and even makes it even better. But this is a nice, real simple one that you can use right now to help your testimonials flow. And you can even, when you're chatting with your clients, request they do it a certain way. If you ever need some support with that, that's why we have the mentorship. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you're curious and you just want a little bit of extra coaching. We're happy to even just give you a half hour of our time. How else is the storytelling going to help you with your lead generation? So whether it's presentations or whether it's educating your clients inside of a session, having a story to go with the analogy is going to help that data and that information stick. Do you know what information is without a story, without some nuance, without some color? It's just a scholarly paper. You ever read scholarly papers? Most people, those things are dry. And for your clients, they'd probably be pretty dry too. But if you can tell a story and make it an analogy to what you're trying to explain to them, it can have a huge impact. So I'll give you an example. Here is the technical version of saying something without spicing it up with a story. Your body neuromuscularly coordinates your movement based on the relative strength, tissue quality, and sensations inside the body. If something doesn't feel good or doesn't have a lot of control or strength, your body can't use it as well. And so we need to get this piece stronger in order to take the pressure off those tight, weak areas. Does that make sense? A little bit wordy. However, if you said something like this, Janice, imagine you and I had a dance competition. We got to dance for an hour, and you really, really want to win that Ferrari, but I don't really care to be there. So you're dancing your heart out, and you're working hard for that hour. And when we're done, I feel pretty good, but your feet are tight and achy. What the heck do you think happened there? She says something like, well, I danced my hardest, and I'm tired and achy because of it, and you didn't really do much, so you're not really feeling too much of anything. I say, that's right. And that's exactly why some parts of your body feel tight and achy and others don't feel much at all. It's because those tight and achy places are working overtime to compensate for the ones that aren't as strong. And that's because ultimately at the end of the day, your brain knows exactly what each relative piece and joint has the capabilities to do, and it will either use it if it's strong or it'll lay it off if it's not and put that work on some other area. So if you want to have some of the parts of your body less tight and less achy, let's get the weaker stuff a little bit stronger. Let's help me be a better dancer, just like we need to help your muscles that aren't contracting as well as aren't as strong, get better at contracting. That might have been a little bit long, a little bit wordy, but I think you get the point I'm trying to say here. Now, the last way, I love this one here. The last way that you can use storytelling to really help generate new leads and warm up new leads is going to be through your social media. I have a huge pet peeve here. I could pop off on this one and just rant for probably 20 minutes, so bear with me here. What I see most people do when they're creating social media content is they make it a lot about themselves and what they're doing in their exercises versus making it about their clients' transformations, their clients' exercises, and giving value and trying to educate people. So there's a real easy format that I use when I do a lot of social media content. And my goal for my social media content, because I'm a one-to-one in-person personal trainer, my goal for my social media content in the context of growing my business is to highlight my clients' successes and to educate people. Those are the only two things I use social media for. And that's if you're a personal trainer, you're trying to grow your business, that's what you should be using it for as well. And when I'm telling stories, I do a real simple one, like before and after. And so what I'll do is I'll have a clip of a client when they were exercising, when they first just started with me, doing something that seems really easy, but they're having a hard time with it. Maybe it's like a hip abduction machine or like a really, really simple elbow curl or something like that. And I could just use the caption, how it started, and I'll let that roll for 3 or 4 seconds. And then the literally next scene will be how it's going. And I'll have them be doing something far more complex, like a deadlift or a pull-up or something like that. But that real simple imagery with that before and after tells a story. This is where when they started, how they were struggling, and now here's where they are now after putting the work in. Easy thing, hard thing, struggling, not struggling. You put some good music underneath that and some good copy, and you're good to go. It's absolutely a game changer, and it's one of the best ways to easily share your social proof of your clients. And I love it because it simplifies the entire process for you. All you got to do is record and film on some kind of consistent basis. And there's a little bit about learning copy here and there, but the storytelling format is very, very simple that way. And if you go to, I think I'm glenowen.fitpro, something like that, on Instagram. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I probably should. But if you look at that, you'll see most of my content is in that kind of vein, the kind of before and after storytelling format. And there's some educational stuff in there as well, but it's been really great to do this in this style, to create posts in this style, because it's simple and it's easy and it helps me connect with my audience. Superb. Lovely. Okay. Let's now talk. Let's talk about this. We kind of talked about this a little bit. So I mean, I won't go too much into this because I don't want to be redundant here. But retention. So we mentioned this before. Retention really starts to drop off when what you're charging outweighs the benefits that people are getting in terms of experience and their results. And so the education, as I mentioned before, is absolutely huge because it really will sets up the client to make better choices and better decisions when they're with you, but when they're not with you. And if people feel really good because they're learning something and you're telling them stories that make them feel good and help them along the way, that's absolutely fantastic. So there's a couple different versions of this that you can do. One, sometimes I tell personalized stories for clients. So I have a client, we'll call her CH, because I don't know if she wants to remain anonymous, but I'm just going to respect her autonomy. CH. And CH, when she started with me, had lots of knee pain in her right knee, didn't have a lot of strength. I think she weighed probably 80 more pounds than she does now. And she was struggling with all sorts of things, and she really didn't like the way that it made her feel. Well, it's 2.5 years later, and she had a knee replacement, but she's doing things now that she never could before. And she's feeling really, really good about it. And I told her a story. I said, Caroline, I remember I had this client one time, and when they saw me, they were heavier than they wanted to be. They had pain all over their body, especially in their knees, and they were a little frustrated about it. But they were committed to doing better by themselves, so they put the time and work in consistently each week, and they got better and better. And now they're 80 pounds lighter and they can do things they never dreamed of. And she's like, wow, that's amazing. I said, and do you realize that person is you? And then just tears came out of her eyes. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because sometimes when you educate people and you tell stories about them and you kind of make it in the third person and then reveal later on it was them the whole time, it has such a huge impact on the way they think and the way they feel. And it's way more impactful than saying, well, when you started with me, you could leg press 200 pounds and now you can leg press 300 pounds. So what? That's just data. But if you show that before and after and you paint the picture of what they were struggling with, what they couldn't do, how they felt, and then you tell them what they can do now, how they're feeling, what they've achieved and what they've accomplished in terms of how it's affected their life, absolute game changer. And I've already mentioned with the educational piece, it goes a long way. I think the last thing I want to bring in, and I probably should have brought this for the new leads section, so I apologize for glazing over on my notes here. When I do presentations, which is, I think, one of the best lead generation tools that are out there, and like this even when I just meet people in public and I'm chatting them up about exercise as well, stories are absolutely huge and impactful and powerful. And so what I've actually started doing now with my presentations is I went from just sharing a whole bunch of data and trying to be as informative as I could, which still works and it still is valid in merit, but I've taken that and gone from sharing less data and less information to more just telling stories. And so I have all these different slides and I know the key point that I want to get across, but I try to tell a story about that key point before I get into anything. And sometimes that story looks like an analogy or metaphor. Sometimes that story looks like a personal anecdote of something that happened with a client. And I just kind of rinse and repeat these stories that I have down pat that have worked well, and I share them in these presentations. And it's amazing because people latch on to me way more, like they've known me my entire life because the things I'm sharing with them are things that they've struggled with, or things I'm sharing about my clients, or things that they've struggled with. So they feel like I really understand and already know them. And B, the information I'm sharing, it's sticking with them and they're remembering it and they're leaving feeling they know way more than when they came in, which is fantastic because really that's what the presentation should do, is it should help those cold and maybe warmer leads become warm and scorching hot leads because they feel more connected to you. They know that you know what you're talking about and they've come to know, like, and trust you for those reasons. And so storytelling is an absolute must. You have to be practicing in your presentations, when you're with clients one-on-one and you're in sessions educating them, and when you're creating social media content, and really just when you're talking to people. And so this is where I get into my pick of the week. And this pick of the week, I have a challenge for you. And this is all around storytelling. And so what I want you to do is pick a piece of education that you use often, that you educate your clients on. If you're in the realm of helping people with fat loss, pick something that you feel like everyone needs to know about fat loss. If you're in the weight muscle building, pick something there. If you're in the pain discomfort, helping people with exercise, modality, marketing, pick something there. And what I want you to do is write a story based on that piece of information and see what you come up with. I'm trying to think of one right now. So like, here's an interesting one. I'm making this up off the top of my head, so we'll see how it goes. So I might say something like this. You know, when I was first starting my business, I didn't put a lot of effort into it. I really just relied on some of the people I was already working with to refer me to other people and help me grow. In my free time, I really just played video games and watched movies, and I struggled. I like the way it felt. I didn't have the financial money I needed to pay my rent. I actually had to move out of my apartment downtown and move in with some friends, and it was embarrassing. It was really frustrating. And I was just sitting one day in my rented room in this apartment I was sharing with some friends on my soft bed, and the sun was coming in the windows, and I said, I'm gonna start working on this. I'm gonna spend an hour a day working on my business. I'm gonna watch it grow. And it did. I got up an hour, first hour of every day, I had coffee, brushed my teeth, did an hour of work on my business. And over time, it grew and grew and grew. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because gaining muscle is the same way. If you want to lie around all day and not exercise and not train, don't expect to get much return on investment in your body. Don't expect to get stronger and have bigger muscles. However, if you wake up every day and you put 45 minutes to an hour of work into your body, you will grow muscle. And this is the power of consistency in giving your body what it needs to grow. So just like a business requires time, energy, and action to grow so that you can thrive like I did, your body needs time, energy, and effort to grow bigger muscles. So something like that. And you can just share that with clients. So go ahead, pick your thing, and that'll be my pick of the week. Everybody, my name is Glenn. This has been another episode of the Minds on Muscle show. I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope this was helpful for you. We'd love to help you 2 to 3x your business. And so if you need any support with that, reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And I'm waffling this a little bit right now because I got to have on my finger on the machine here to do the fade out and everything. Oh, I've run out of time. Everybody have a great day. Appreciate you being with me here while I'm learning.